and we're trying to give them a state. They don't want a state. If you take this sort of, say we're going to try to be really nice, we want to kill and hurt the enemy, but we don't want to kill and hurt anyone besides that. Well, look, tough shit, okay? War sucks, and the people who start wars need to be destroyed as quickly as possible. The people who start them, okay? Now, we didn't start the Vietnamese War, the communists did. We simply stepped into it. We didn't start World War II, we didn't start World War I. The people who start the wars should be destroyed as quickly as possible. And to take this weepy, sad view of every single little village and every 20 or 50 humans killed, look, I think it is a tragedy. 20 or 50 innocent civilians. Absolute tragedy. But the soldiers should have had more support. They should have had better tactics available. They should have had instructions that allowed them to do what they needed to do to fight, instead of being tied with one hand behind their back and told to go fight in a jungle with tactics from Western Europe. So the My Lai incident was a tragedy in the sense that it made everybody all upset about this war, where they should have said, okay, to hell with that little village. Let's get this country freedom. Let's get them freedom. Let's produce freedom in that country. So what if a village is destroyed? We destroyed dozens and dozens of cities in World War II, and that came out rather well, I have to say. Sorry about the blood. Sorry that there's so much blood on the hands of Hitler and Stalin and the fascists in Japan and Italy. Sorry about that. It's not on our hands. We ended it and set up a rather good system. The post-World War II order, I think, has gone quite well. Western Europe's destroying itself through the immigration and multiculturalism now, but that aside, there's 60 years of pretty prosperous times. Sorry about the blood. And that's the attitude we need to have in Vietnam. Instead, we have this measly attitude where we want to save, we're scared of hurting or destroying 20 or 50 civilians. And what happens? The whole frickin' country descends into communism. We've got to decide what's valuable, ladies and gentlemen. Is every single little hamlet of 50 people valuable? Or is the country of Vietnam valuable? Is it valuable to not have another communist state? What's valuable here? And everybody in the 70s said that the lives of the poor civilians was extremely important. It's very unfortunate. War is unfortunate. Atrocities are unfortunate. Casualties are unfortunate. But do you want to destroy a bunch of villages and kill a bunch of people? And have a free economy like South Korea and Japan, and people have computers and cars and homes? Or do you want to preserve the lives of these innocent civilians here and there in this and that little village and let them all descend into communism? I hope that my questioning has made clear my stance. Alright, we'll skip a ways down. The atrocities at My Lai first came to the Army's attention in March of '69, when ex-GI Ron Ridenour wrote a letter to the Army, to Defense Secretary Laird, and to some congressmen. So he wrote some letters. He alleged that 1 year earlier, Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, had committed dark and bloody deeds in a village nicknamed Pinkville in Quang Ngai Province. Although not a member of the unit, Ridenour reconstructed events based on conversations he had had with participants. The men, he said, had orders to destroy the trouble spot and all its inhabitants of trouble spot. And as a consequence, perhaps 400 civilians had been massacred. I should have read ahead a little bit again. It's been weeks since I outlined this material. 400 rather than 20 or 50. Company Commander Captain Ernest Medina had been hesitant in issuing the orders, as if it were something he didn't want to do, but had to. Now, when we were fighting Germany, or when we were fighting Japan on the islands or whatever, our commanders knew which territory was ours and which was the enemy's, because the territory we had taken was ours, and the territory that the enemy still had was theirs. But it was a different situation in Vietnam. This little village it was just a Vietnamese village. It had enemy in it. It had enemies in it being held there and helped by the population, some of the population. So listen to this. According to the battalion, after action... Oh, so my further point is that in order to tell the upper people in the army, in order to let them know what's going on, in World War I, in World War II in Germany and Japan and the islands, all you had to do is tell them how much ground you had taken, where the front lines were, how far you had advanced. And I knew something about how the battle was going. But in Vietnam, we didn't have that attitude. We had the attitude, we'll kill the enemy, rather than we'll take over the territory and enforce our own laws, what laws we want. Instead, we thought, we'll just kill the enemy, and then everything will be nice, and we'll be able to make freedom come in this country. Didn't work, did it? But anyways, here's how they kept track of whether they're winning or losing, taking ground or whatever. Statistics. How many enemy did they kill, right? So, according to the battalion, after action report, the sweep through My Lai that day had resulted in 128 Viet Cong dead and 3 weapons captured. That only 3 rifles were recovered from such a large number of enemy dead apparently aroused few suspicions as the report traveled up through the chain of command, although a follow-up report completed a month later by Brigade Commander Colonel Orrin Henderson concluded 20 civilians may have been killed by artillery preparatory fires and by the cross fires of the U.S. and VC forces. He says 20. It's actually 400 or so. Based on the favorable after-action reports, the staff of General Westmoreland, Commander U.S. Forces in Vietnam in March '68, sent congratulations to officers and men for an outstanding action that had dealt the enemy a heavy blow. So they actually got congratulated for My Lai because of the reports of casualties that had gone up. 3 rifles, 128 enemy killed. Now, the brass up at the top tends to get disconnected from the statistics, realizing that they're somewhat unreliable. And the troops on the bottom, sending statistics up, very quickly become disillusioned with it all, because they realize that if they are putting in fudged statistics, then probably a lot of other commanders are. And probably the way that the war is being waged is based on false information. It's not correct. It would make you somewhat morose about the whole situation that you're putting your life on the line to try to remedy. Now, when they looked into it, apparently there's this guy, Lieutenant William L. Colley, Jr., who had herded a bunch of civilians together, and he had taken a machine gun, and he had ordered a soldier to shoot them all with a machine gun, and the soldier balked and wasn't going to do it, and so he did it. And it turns out, I'm not going to go over the rest of it, but it turns out that this guy was pretty stupid, and maybe not the best choice for the army, but what the hell, there was a draft on. And he may have actually even been sort of used as the scapegoat for the My Lai incident. So it says here. But anyways, we're going to skip past that. Just to give you some idea of how interested we were in winning the war. We didn't really know what winning the war meant, but the one thing we did know is we didn't want to kill any civilians, and we didn't want to hurt anybody that was innocent. Oh man, look. You could take that attitude if you're walking up and down the streets in the United States looking for criminals. Got to be very careful about the civilians and stuff. But not when you're talking about men with tanks and guns and camouflage and helicopters and bombs. They have a different job. Their life is on the line. It's a very dangerous job. And to ask them to not let any innocent people get hurt or killed is just ridiculous. And it makes war into an ongoing atrocity, which you then lose. And then this whole country full of peasants that you didn't kill because you were being nice and polite and you didn't want to hurt innocent people, whole country of people you didn't kill now descends into communism. And how well off are they? So I think it'd be better off to kill with large-scale bombing and stuff like